everyone, I'm Rebecca and welcome back to my sewing room. So a little while ago I showed you the first part of a video that was an unboxing video that was kindly brought to you by the seller Pierre Moonswear on eBay, who gave me a really great deal on fabulous 1890s pieces. So I did the first part of that already, and that was a matching bodice and skirt that I unboxed that was absolutely beautiful. And if you have not seen that already, I will link that down below for you. But that video got a little bit long while I was still taking everything out and going over it. So I have broken this up into a second video now to show you the other two pieces in this set. Now, the first piece you're going to see is actually the piece that I had first ordered from him, and I love it. It's so gorgeous. It's like light blue, silvery, Elsa 1890s-ish kind of, which is ironic considering it's me. The second piece that I'm going to be showing you is actually a bonus piece. I had no idea that he was going to add an additional piece in this. It's not in great condition, but it's still fascinating. So I'm so excited to share both of those pieces with you today. Let's go ahead and go back to the past for my unboxing and take a look at those pieces. Let's start with the other one that I ordered. So I did think it was looking silver when I pulled it out of the box, but now that I have it in different lighting, it's definitely a light blue silver. I don't tend to see this color come across a lot on eBay, things in like a really light shade like this. So this is actually really fun to see. Oh my gosh, there is like tiny freaking braid at the bottom of this cuff, that most of which is no longer there, but it's so tiny. A little thread loop too, with a hook on the other side. Wow, that is a small cuff. Remember how I could get my forefingers in before? Yeah, I can't anymore. That is so tiny. This is a pretty stiff silk. Like, it feels like something that doesn't have a lot of softness. It's something that feels fragile, even though it looks to be in great condition. It is a brocaded silk with a stripe and a floral or maybe even grape pattern going through it. And it has lace that has definitely been coming off of this bodice, but it's a really cool zigzag pattern on this lace. And that clearly used to go quite a lot of places around the bodice. The bodice closure on this is quite interesting. Oh, there's like an underlap. So this section right here closes first and hooks into these hooks that were set into like the middle of this. This is like structure. And so that closes up here. And then this comes over here, and this side then hooks into that. So the center of this is actually this lace section right here. That is the center front of this bodice. And I think these were probably all kind of pleated in various ways at one point until it got pressed through time. The other part that's really interesting to me is that the back is cut in like little flappy tails. We'll have to take more of a look at it in a bit. This bone is so bent that that's actually what's causing this to stick up so crazily like this. The bone that's in this is doing a ski slope. It's fully a J over here, which if I can get a look at the bones, I can see if it's something that I can maybe help to bend back into place. But if it's something like a baleen, I don't want to chance that at all. Over here, I find this very interesting because honestly, this trim looks so modern. This looks like something that you would get at Joann's, but it's not. And I think this actually is metal thread because it's cool to the touch and very stiff, but it's odd how cool to the touch it is. So I believe it is metal thread. And they didn't know what to do with their ends either. I hate it when you have this kind of braided trim and the ends just go all haywire. Well, that did to them too. The lace was a flat lace that they have put tiny pleats into and run a running stitch on the sleeve. Sorry, I'm kind of jumping all over this bodice because there's so much to look at. And it's got a lovely, in a different shade of blue, got a lovely kind of bow, but I believe, is it ribbon or is it fabric? No, I think it is ribbon. And it's just kind of squinched all in there and tacked all over. This was, my guess, probably tacked at one point too, because the other sides are all tacked. And this sleeve is just so interesting because it's all pleated into shape with box pleats all over. And it is pretty full up here. I'm honestly having a bit of a hard time dating this, because this sleeve, the top and bottom layers, I've mentioned this before, but this was something that was very, very common around the turn of the century. And the sleeve is not super leg of mutton-y or anything like that. We do have a high collar. I think probably we're looking at very, very late 1890s or very early aughts, sometime around there. And I would hesitate and probably give my money towards the late 90s as opposed to the early aughts, just because of the weight of the fabric also, because I feel like you start to get some lighter fabrics going on. I know we had that bodice that almost looked like it was made out of denim, but this just feels heavier in a way, more structured. Now that tiny trim that was on the edge of the sleeve, I think used to be on the collar as well, because there's just a little bit of faint of red. Oh, yep, actually, we still have it on. Oh my God, it's like a little ruff. Oh my God, I'll have to get a close-up of this for you and pop this on the screen because I'm guessing it's not going to show up right now. But it's a super gathered little cartridge ruff trim. And that's what used to be on the sleeve too, but it's fallen in a much worse state on the sleeve and on the front of the collar, but on the back of the collar it's still quite intact. That is insane. Wow. And the collar hooks around with one hook, it appears, up there, which is interesting because the hooks on the exterior flap stop here, so all of this is loose. There are hooks in the center front down here, but over here at the side it's all loose. This is just like, I don't know, this one is so different from anything that I've seen, with these funky sleeves, the lace on it, the color, this orange boning casing. What even is that? Look at this interior. Oh my God, there's just something with the colors that feel so 1960s, 1970s to me, with the baby blue and the tan and the orange. It's cracking me up. And this stripe, we've got a wonderful striped twill tape waist stay in here. I don't know what this might have been a price tag at some point, but got hooks and eyes on that. And this is what I'm talking about with the tails being all split in the back here, which is very interesting. I wonder if I could get this one on dress form. I think this is too small as well, but I really want to see what this shape does. That would be very cool. So my guess from looking at the interior of this bodice is that we're going to have on the exterior two back sections that are going to take up this whole piece, because here we have a center back, a side back, and another side back, kind of like the other bodice. And this one doesn't have any blue coming through, so there's probably no blue there, and it's flatlined just to here. Now these have been wonderfully finished, like a little too OCD finished, because these were actually all folded down to the interior, and little whip stitches were used to finish those all up. And that's just like a lot of work and a lot of OCD. This again also was turned to the inside and whip stitched. This is not a polished cotton, by the way. This is just a regular cotton, but it's pretty stiff. I don't know. Yeah, it's just stiff. It's not polished though. It's crispy. This whole bodice feels kind of crispy, which I know is an age thing, but it looks like it's in remarkable condition other than some of that lace and trim. The hem is actually just turned up. It is not a facing. This is literally the exterior fabric just turned up. And I find it very interesting that the bones were put on after it was turned up, which you do not normally see. Normally these bones would be on the inside of that fabric, but this person said no and put them on the outside of the fabric. We have two darts in the center front area, and one of them is boned. The other one is not. Gosh, there's just some weird things going on here. I feel like they had a lot of excess to get to the selvage when they were over here, and they just tucked it in a few times. I think that's what's going on here. Can't say for certain because all of the stitching is actually still intact, so I can't see inside of it. And yeah, same with over here, it's all still intact. And part of that is that you can tell that quite a lot of this is for sure machine stitched. I kind of make an assumption on a lot of 1890s era bodices that that is the case. Most things are going to be machine stitched, hand finished. And that is for sure the case here. You can see all of the really nice, really tiny, I mean, this is like if you set your sewing machine on a 1.5 stitch length. So that is why between this fabric being intact and the stitches being intact, it's hard to get a look at what's going on here because it's actually in such great shape. These tails I find particularly interesting because the bottom is again folded up, but we have this bit which went to this seam, I guess, is like, it was out and it was folded in. And this bit, which went to the center back seam, is just folded in and they're tucked under and hand sewed, hand whipped down. It's just like the construction on this is so weird. And since I cannot see what kind of boning this is, I'm not going to try and mess with this. It's a double wire boning, which reminds me actually of the boning that was in the tea dress that we looked at a few months ago, this double boning. Oh my gosh, it just is so... Okay, we have to take a look at the back because it's just so weird. I don't even know what to say. Oh great, the back gives us no clues about anything. Except oddly enough that I was wrong about that one seam. The one seam where the blue isn't showing on the inside, it is a seam. So I wonder why it's not showing in the seam allowance at all. Because this just has a million tiny little pieces. I mean, we have side back 1, side back 2, side back 3, center back. And each one of them, I mean, this is less than an inch wide right here in the center back at the waist. And I guess that was so that they could do these weird fun tails too. Still don't exactly know what's going on here. It's very funky. I kind of feel bad that I can't tell a lot about the construction of this bodice because it's in such good condition. This might have to be one that I examine more closely when I'm not seeing it for the first time and talking to you guys about it. The sleeves are pretty heavily gathered. Oh, we didn't take a look at the sleeves from the inside, so let's do that. This part is again just folded up, so this is this length just folded, and it's folded all the way past this trim point. Right here we have, again, it's folded up, goes about an inch in, and then this little funky trim is stitched onto this like cotton flap going on here. Different cotton, by the way, than the interior. It's like a tape. And hand sewed, this is machine sewn. Hey, we actually have a raw edge inside the sleeve. I guess they figured they couldn't be that OCD. The cotton is a raw edge. It's hard to tell the bodice fabric, but what you can tell about the bodice fabric, and I hope that this comes across on the camera, I'll try to get a close-up of it as well, but the blue fabric, I think, was a lot brighter, which I suppose makes sense, but it's a much brighter blue on the inside here. That's very interesting. And I love that the condition of it is so good. Other than the lace, it's honestly feels crispy but hearty. So the sleeve is lined with a gathered sleeve. Oh, and the twill, it's got a twill tape covering part of the arm's eye, and then I think just like a bias tape covering the other part, which is, I guess they ran out. But yeah, it's just that same crispy cotton as the flat lining of the bodice is in the sleeve. And again, this is not finished, and it's treated as a separate sleeve on, there's a seam on the back. So we do have seams on a seam on the back of the exterior as well, but it's only brought together, the fabric is only brought together on the inner seam. These are treated separately, probably because it's smaller. It's definitely smaller on the inside because my hand is at its full expansion right now, as in the inner sleeve's full expansion, and there's still obviously a lot more fabric of the outer sleeve. That is just so fascinating, so interesting. Okay, let's take some measurements of this guy. I think I'm gonna do a flat measurement. So from the center hooks across the waist, we're looking at 24.5. So unfortunately not gonna fit on my dress form. And the bust's a little harder to do that way. Let's see if we can do it flat. This one does have a little bit of a musty smell, by the way. This one's really small. She's like flat chested. Yeah, 28, 29, if that, because actually I'm away from the hooks, so it's smaller than that. So yeah, rather flat chested, this lady. Okay, very cool. I do apologize that I can't tell you more details on this one because it's too well made and I can't figure them out and get in there. So very interesting. Again, I think this is going to be a very late 1890s bodice, but if you have a better idea about it based on what you've seen in this video, please do drop me a comment down below. Let me know what your idea is for when it might be. It could be maybe a little bit earlier 90s. Or I guess conversely, it could be later going into the aughts, but I'm pretty sure this one's going to be in the 90s. Let's take a close-up look of this bodice now, zooming in so that you can see all of the wonderful details. Okay, let's take a look at our bonus item. So this is the first that I've seen this item when I pulled it out of the box. We're looking at what appears to be an Edwardian bodice. And it's not in great condition, so I'm guessing that's why they threw this one in, because it's harder to sell a bodice when the sleeves are falling to pieces. This isn't something I would normally buy. The braid is very interesting. It's quite stiff, and they did a really nice job of bringing the braid together. The facing, it looks rather militaristic. This one we have a sateen interior, not even polished cotton. This is full on sateen, I believe. And a lot of boning in here. This one is still secured at the bottom, but it does appear to be flat steel. Ooh, look at these giant hooks on this waist stay. There's 3 giant hooks. There we go. So we have 2 hooks to hold up the skirt, and then 1 hook to close it. Oh my god, look at that eye! That is like the largest eye ever. That is so cool. And this is a very solid twill tape, almost denim feel, honestly, to this tape. Got a lot of boning in here. 6, 7, 8. Wait, really? Yeah, we have 15 pieces of boning in here, so this wins the boning challenge of today, apparently. Definitely something spilled on this at some point, because this flap in the neckline, this lining fabric is the same fabric as in the sleeve, but in the sleeve it's kind of white, gray, not brown. And this, by the way, is made out of a silk file, I believe. I have at least one other piece in like this exact same fabric. I really love the lining fabric though. It makes me think of Hidden Mickeys, and it's also random. And it also has this contrast patterned silk with the center front bib area, which is again shattering. We have piecing on our sleeve. So in fact, it's a very fun bit of piecing. Right here. Random, just didn't quite have enough to get up to the armpit. And this has been let out at some point as well. Let's see what the seam allowance looks like on that seam. Oh yeah. Yeah, look at that. So it was let out here at the side seam. And you can see that this seam allowance is way tinier than this one. It's like half the size. So it was let out about probably 3/4 of an inch on either side of this bodice. Presumably they put a new facing on, since there's, you know, no weirdness going on in the facing. The facing still looks very nice. So yeah, presumably when they let this out, it was still when they had the fabric available, because the facing, you know what? The facing is a similar fabric, but I don't think it is identical. It is a black file, but it is not identical. We've got hanger loops. I like that they put a little bit of the file right down here, so that when it laps over with the closure, if it moves at all on the collar, you get black instead of you getting this tan sateen. And this sleeve is also pieced, but it's pieced more. There's a larger piece in the armpit than in the other sleeve. And actually, no, it is still top stitched. But yeah, that's funny. Let's see what this looks like when it's kind of all neatly lined up. Oh, that's fun. It's definitely austere, but it's still a really fun look. Like, I love what they've done with this trim. It just gives so much visual interest, and I love that sort of, again, militaristic style that the braid really gives you. It matches down at the sleeve. This one is a larger size. This one I'll bet I could actually put on my dress form. That said, it's not in great condition, and so, to be honest, I don't think it's really worth dragging my dress form out and putting the base on it, but let's get her where she'd be basically closed. Yeah, this should fit on my dress form. It's just about a 30-inch waist. And bust. Oh, she's busty. 38-inch bust. So definitely a much more functional size, which probably speaks to the condition. This is in a worse condition than the other pieces that we have looked at today. And that may very well be because this was able to be worn. This is a size that many people still are. So this is something that many people could potentially still wear and probably have, which is why you get this going on in the sleeve. That said, it could also be, you know, whatever might have spilled on it or what it might have. I don't think this was weighted or it'd be in way worse condition, but you know, anything else really could have helped to lead to this, but it probably has been worn a lot more than those other two pieces because it is a wearable size. Yeah, this guy's falling apart in those holes, but it's fun to get a little bonus piece. And it's also, I always just love looking at a piece that is a larger size. It just makes it feel a little bit more approachable in a way. Like, we can ooh and ah over the tiny stuff all day, but this is like, oh, this seems functional. Silk file is a very, like, sturdy material. This was let out at a point. Like, it just feels like it was lived in, which is nice. But overall, pretty plain. So, always nice to see, though. Nice to see a wrist that is 8.5 inches around, something you can like maybe even stick your hand into for some people. Yeah, I like it when we can see larger pieces like this. So thank you so much to Pierre Moonswear for this bonus piece and for the wonderful great discount on that gorgeous 1890s dress.
Now we're going to take a closer look at this bodice so that you can see all of the details on this wonderful, unexpected gift I was given.
A lot of really fun stuff to look at. I definitely didn't expect to have a whole third bonus piece put in there. So thank you so much again to Pierre Moonswear for helping me to produce this video and supplying me with these wonderful, wonderful pieces. I am so excited to add these to my collection, particularly that 1890s dress. And honestly, the blue bodice was just like in such amazing condition. Only having a little bit of lace be a problem and for it to be 120 plus years old, that is pretty phenomenal. And it's very cool to have a piece like that because I haven't ever seen one like that before. So again, thank you so much for joining me for this video. If you liked this video, please go ahead and click the thumbs up icon. And if you'd like to see more videos like this from me, please go ahead and click subscribe and the little bell icon to be notified every time I post a video. I do post videos here to my YouTube twice a week, but I post every day over on my Instagram, so please go follow me on my Instagram. That's at Lady Rebecca Fashions. And if you would like to support me in my eBay habit and helping to bring more of these fun antique pieces to you on the interwebs every month, I do have a link to my Ko-fi account down below. Once again, thank you so much for joining me. If you saw something that was particularly interesting, leave me a comment. I love chatting with you guys in the comments. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Happy sewing!